What's up guys, my name is Natalie and welcome to my Nook of Novels. Today I'm going to be choosing my April TBR using my wheel. And April is going to be a mood reading month. I was about to explain how I normally do that, but that's actually not how I'm going to be doing it anymore. So let me explain how I'm actually going to do that this month. So if you're new here, no worries. I'm basically changing half of my rules for this video anyway. So I will just explain what is happening here and fill you in. Every other month, what I do is I spin this wheel a certain number of times and choose a book for every prompt that it lands on. It is inspired by Cody from Cody's Book Corner. And the other months, what I normally do is I spin the wheel throughout the month. But what I'm going to be doing instead is I'm going to be spinning the wheel right now at the beginning of the month to choose my prompts for April. But I'm not actually going to choose the books right now though. I'm just going to choose the prompts. So throughout the month, I can sort of mood read, but the books have to match with the prompts that I have spun. I hope that made sense. I'm really bad at explaining, which is not very convenient for, you know, having a channel where I'm supposed to like explain books. Some other things that are going to be changing is I always say that if I land on TBR Jar or something that applies to Goodreads, such as biggest book or oldest publication, I go to my Goodreads and pick out the biggest book. For example, I can either do the actual biggest book or the biggest book that is not owned by me or continues with the series. And I always say that that is a rule that I have, and it technically is, but I never actually use it. I always forget that it exists and just ignore it. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. So I am going to be choosing the top 3 of those things and picking between them. So if I land on biggest book, I will choose between the top 3 biggest books that I own. If I land on TBR Jar, I'm going to pick out 3 different books from my jar and choose between all 3 of those so that I do get a little bit of choice, because there's a lot of prompts like that where I don't get any choice in what I read. It's just whatever it chooses for me. This does still allow me to use those prompts without completely just losing any choice that I have in the matter. If I land on the same space twice in a row, I still will be adding a spin for that. I think that is everything now, and I think I'm just going to stay sitting in this chair the whole video. I normally stand up and do this, but I feel like I'm just awkwardly too tall for the camera, even though obviously I'm not tall at all. I am literally so short, but I just feel too tall for the placement of this wheel in the camera. Whenever I spin, whatever I land on, I'm going to show you guys what books are kind of catching my eye right now and what I might pick for that prompt, but that's not necessarily what I'm going to use to fulfill the prompt. So without further ado, let's get on to spin number 1. Spin number 1 was TBR Jar, and I have my jar right here. Every single book on my physical TBR is in this jar. So like I said, I'm just going to pull out 3 different random slips of paper from here, and whatever 3 those are, I will get to decide between to read in April. This one. Julius Caesar. So I think I spelled that wrong actually. It is a Shakespeare play. So that's the first thing I picked out of there. Oh my gosh, it's kind of hard to actually pick out pieces of paper because there's so many of them. Oh, it's Freaky Friday, which I actually have already read, so I'm gonna pick out something else. The Scorpio Races, which I also have already read. I haven't gone through this jar in quite a while. Looking for Alaska. Okay, focus. The last book is one of my brother's Star Wars books, and it is The Cloak of Deception. So we have Looking for Alaska by John Green, which I don't exactly remember what this is about, but it is definitely a contemporary, and I read The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, which I love so much. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and I have all of his other books, I believe, except for The Anthropocene Reviewed, but I'm super excited to get to all of them. The other one is The Cloak of Deception by James Luceno. I don't know anything about this aside from that it is Star Wars related. I like to go into things not knowing much, so I would read the description, but I don't want to do that. Once I read this though, I will let you guys know what it's about and if I like it or not. If I do read it, I might read Looking for Alaska, like I said, or I could read the Shakespeare play. Just being honest, that's unlikely, but I might read that one. And I'm not holding that up because I'm not going and getting my gigantic Shakespeare anthology, but TBR Jar stays on my wheel. I don't take that one off, so I'm just going to go on to spin number 2. That was a kind of a bad spin, but that's okay. I landed on photo cover, which is just a book that has a photo on the cover. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. So the first couple things that I could do to fulfill this prompt are series continuations. The first one is Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. This is technically on my March TBR, but I don't know that I'm going to get to it or not. Speaking of which, I am probably going to need a punishment book for April as well, so I will pull that after I do all my spins. Don't let me forget. I don't know much about this other than that I think they're trying to save a tree person, because I saw the movie for this a really long time ago, and I might honestly be confusing it with a different movie, but it's the second book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, and I read the first book back in December and I enjoyed it a lot, so I would really like to continue with the series. Next up is Escaping from Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the third book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and I'm actually currently reading the second book, which is Hunting Prince Dracula, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I really enjoyed the first one as well, so may as well continue with the series and see where it goes in the third book. And this last book is one that I've had on my TBR for a really long time, and I may choose to read this to just get it off my TBR, and that is Voices of Dragons by Carrie Vaughn. I think that I might really enjoy it, but I also might not, so we'll just have to wait and see. It's just a YA fantasy with dragons is all that I know about this, but I am excited to see if I like it or not. I'm going to replace photo cover with this one. Scroll on Goodreads. So that just means that I'm going to go to my Goodreads feed and scroll until I find a book that is on one of my shelves. Spin number 3. Oldest published. So the top 3 oldest books on my TBR were The Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer, which I might do this one if I'm feeling particularly brave, but most likely not, considering I'm in the middle of reading a lot of books, one of them being The Priory of the Orange Tree, and I really would like to finish that one in April, so the chances of me starting another giant chunky book in April is rather unlikely. It does have gorgeous gold sprayed edges though, which I love. The next one is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Rip Van Winkle, which is the children's version with pictures, and this is very likely for me to pick up. And the other one was another Shakespeare play. I think it was Love's Labour's Lost. And the third thing that I had listed on my Goodreads was the Percy Jackson Greek Myths thing, which is not accurate at all, and I wouldn't read those anyway because I'm going to read those after all of the other Percy Jackson books, which normally if something comes up that is not the first book in a series, then I would just read whatever the first or the next book in that series is. But in that case, I'm just not going to do that, especially considering those were definitely not published before Shakespeare, so yeah, I'm going to replace oldest published with this prompt, which is finish a series. Spin number 4. The complete opposite of the prompt that I just spun, newest published. So the newest book on my TBR is Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. If you remember, this book came out a couple years ago, I think. If that tells you anything, I do not very often purchase brand new books. Usually I just purchase things that happen to catch my eye, which are not usually super new releases or just things that are super hyped up. I purchased this because I really, really loved the Red Queen series by this author, and so I'm excited to see if I enjoy her new fantasy series as much as her other one. The second newest published book was actually Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline, so I might read Ready Player 1 by Ernest Cline, which is one of my dad's favorites, if not his favorite book, which makes me very excited. And I've seen the movie for this and I really, really enjoyed it, so I am excited to see if I enjoy the book as much as the movie. Basically everything is in a virtual reality world. There's obviously the real world, but it's kind of just turned into a wreck. There is not much in the real world anymore. Most things are in this virtual reality world. The Oasis, that's what it's called. There's this Easter egg thing that is in the virtual reality world. Basically everyone is trying to find it, and the main character discovers one of the things, and then everybody else is trying to find the rest of them. This is probably a very bad explanation. I'm super excited to see how the book is different from the movie, because I've heard that a lot of the challenges / Easter egg things are different in the movie than the book. And the third newest book was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, My best friend got me this for Christmas. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, which takes place in somewhere in Asia, I think, and it has to do with gangs. So that sounds exciting, and I will switch out newest published for author initials. So that's just an author who has initials on the thing. So C.S. Lewis, for example, something like that. I just put the things away because I thought I was done and then remembered that I never picked out my punishment book. I can't believe you guys let me forget. Okay, so I have my little punishment bag with all of my books of punishment. Yeah. There's a lot of scary books in here, whether they are just really big or I just really don't want to read them. I'm just going to randomly choose one out, and that is the first book that I have to read in April if I do not complete the rest of my TBR in March, which is looking unlikely. This one. I really don't want to look at it. Oh my gosh, this is the prompt that I got before in September. So it's first in Goodreads. You can't even see that. Focus. There we go. First in Goodreads. Okay, so I'm just going to go to my feed and whatever the first thing is. Oh, it's Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey, which I believe is an adult's fantasy / sci-fi book, which is kind of big, which is a little bit scary. But I'm going to check to see if my library has that, and if not, then I will be reading A Cosmic Kind of Love by Samantha Young, which might be an adult romance, and if it is, then I probably won't read that. But the next thing is The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, which I kind of do actually really want to read, so we'll just see if my library has the first one. That was slightly difficult because my library changed their website, so I had to find where everything was again. But they do actually have Leviathan Wakes, so I placed a hold on that, and I will be reading that at the beginning of April / whenever it comes in. Not too bad as far as punishment books go. I'm pretty sure it's kind of big, but also it sounds really interesting, so I'm kind of excited for it. So these are all of the books that I might end up reading in April, depending on my reading mood and what is catching my eye the most, and also just what I have time for, because I might just pick the 4 shortest books out of these if I do not have time to read very much. I also need to make sure that one of the books that I read have green on them for my Rainbow Readathon, because that is the color for April. I believe at least a couple of those books had green on the covers somewhere. I definitely think that I will prefer doing this and spinning the wheel for the prompts to just spinning the wheel throughout the month, because it just seems a little bit more fun, and also giving myself some choice for some of these prompts that would not allow me to choose what I read. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you like this new format of choosing my TBR. Please like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and hit the notification bell if you would like to see the other videos that I post on Mondays. My Bookstagram and Goodreads will be linked in the description if you would like to check out either of those. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!